Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I'd like to continue on with our discussions, our conversations, and our discoveries and explorations with respect to those works that can be found in the extraordinary release made by the Criterion Collection earlier this year at SPY number 1082. Such collection is collectively referred to as the Signifyin works of Marlon Riggs. And so far we have been discussing each of the works that are featured primarily in this set. And that brings us today to another work. It is a short work, approximately 8 minutes, and it is described as being from 1991, and it is called ANTHEM. If we recall our past discussions of the works of Marlon Riggs leading up to ANTHEM from 1991, for example, our discussions regarding Tongues Untied or Affirmations, I think we can highlight or recall that one of the many aspects of Marlon Riggs's own artistry and visual poetry and soundscapes and artistic sensibilities, I think a lot of that has to do with the idea of expression or self-expression and using various modes of cinema and audiovisual based poetry to achieve such ends. So the means of a cinema or artistic poetry leading to the ends, namely the object of self-expression. And so here in this work, ANTHEM, we have, I think, another brilliant example of this type of dynamic. The thoughts and feelings given space and given form in the various modes of art, poetry, and expression captured within the running time of 8 minutes here. And it is another fascinating work. For example, one of those levels of expression is the visual medium. And this is shown through various glimpses or shots of various people that could be engaged in some kind of activity, or maybe they're looking at us, or they are performing a type of dance, or they are speaking poetry directly towards us, the viewers. And so, for instance, we have, for example, the poetry of Essex Hemphill, that we saw featured very prominently in an earlier work called Tongues Untied. And so here we have, for example, another poem performed on camera by Essex Hemphill in some respects, and in other aspects we hear those words being spoken over different forms of images. And incidentally, this poem is American Wedding from Essex Hemphill. There's also unfinished work performed by Colin Robinson, and also contributing poets as being Reginald T. Jackson, Steve Langley, Donald Woods, so we have these words spoken over the soundtrack to give weight or to give a type of conscious feeling or significance or an added significance to what we see. And part of what we see too, the tapestry or mix or blend of what we see is, as I say, various combination of performance, spoken word as performed on camera, dance or some kind of physical expression or movement, and also the words themselves. We see printed words shown on screen. They appear briefly and then they disappear, leading to a next word that combine or gather or collect to form, say, a collective sentence or phrase. And also we hear various phrases alongside or together with the spoken word or poetry that we hear on the soundtrack. We hear alternate, say, lines of music or chants or other layering of sounds and music that give the overall impression of the idea of the self-expression made manifest in a work like Anthem. So, for example, we hear various repetitions of phrases such as "in America" or "parade it proudly" or "pervert the language." And here too, I think in the spoken words, we actually get a direct addressing of the importance of language and the use of language and the specified use of language. The word "pervert the language" I think is very important, because that I think also suggests within it implicitly the idea of taking language, taking words and using them and turning them into our own, which is another way to say using words and language to give voice to what it is we feel in our hearts, i.e. a sense of use of words for self-expression. And that is at the very heart, I would suggest, of Marlon Riggs's work as exemplified by his filmography that we see in this set. For example, the work at this particular occasion, Anthem. And we also see the words revolution and history, remake my history. We see associations, visual associations made between language and revolution, the idea of rearranging syllables, taking control, taking command of that which is part of our own voice, our own expression, namely the words that are employed in this particular language in order to give voice and to give a type of weight to what it is, an outward expressive weight to what it is we feel inside. Another way to say self-expression. And conjugation and these types of images are interwoven into this particular expression. Again, the focus being on language and the importance of language and the very essence or units of language, syllables, conjugated organization, etc., to form sentences or thoughts. And also we see the notion of risk and fear and danger as well. Are you scared? Are you safe? And this is linked, I think, very directly with other expressions of human, say, feeling and emotion. Sometimes this is referred to, of course, as sexuality, feelings of human sexuality. And in particular, the focus here is on the expression of the identity of Marlon Riggs and others who identified themselves and who expressed themselves here on camera in Anthem and elsewhere as black gay men. And part of their expression is through their sexuality, and they acknowledge this through the expressions that we see on film here, or in this audiovisual expression. And amongst that, we have to recall that this is 1991, so the early 90s. And so this is directly tied into the AIDS crisis. And so here we have direct dealings using the vocabulary of the language that has been set up, the syntax that has been set up in the very start of the work Anthem, and using words themselves to express not just the importance of self-expression, but also the immediate, say, risks and fears and the sense of being scared. The words actually we see, are you scared? Are you safe? And the words also we feel and hear and experience when we watch this, immunity, dying, death. And therefore this becomes, I think, a recognition of the risks and of the challenges in terms of what is directly associated vis-a-vis the lives of these very individuals, including, of course, Marlon Riggs, and what it is that he himself is going through in terms of his own physical and emotional condition at this very point in time. So this is a very key component. We saw this type of handling of this very immediate and significant and serious issue in other past works of Marlon Riggs, Tongues Untied and Affirmations, but here we also see it expressed in this way. But it's also set against the context of this work Anthem, which is again using language, using words in a very rhythmic way, a musical-like way as well, to give voice to the expression of thought that one feels inside, whether that be expressions of joy, of emotional liberation or feeling or freedom, or in some instances the feelings of being scared or being afraid. And I think those are very reasonably expressed and also very, I think, bravely expressed as well. And this is linked too with the idea of the words and images giving rise to what is being felt and thought, a chain of tongues unchained, as it were. So this also leads to, or reminds us, of the idea of how much emphasis and value Marlon Riggs and company here place on the mode of self-expression, how important it is. It's linked to the idea of liberation or freedom, a chain of tongues unchained. And so this is, I think, a play on the word chain. It also gives rise to the image of chains or being bound, and also therefore means unchained, signifying freedom. And this is linked to tongues or spoken word or speaking or expression. So therefore, the mode of expression leads to liberation or freedom. And also we return to, or we are reminded of Essex Hemphill and his poetry. Every time we kiss, we confirm the new world coming. And this is then further linking the idea of language and emotional expression and human sexuality. And they are all intertwined and interlinked, thus suggesting, I think, very, very fundamentally and very powerfully, that each is an essential part of the mode of expression for a human being. And we see it exemplified in the various and many individuals that we are meeting as we watch Anthem. And also linked to this too is inherent in the word anthem, and the idea of the image that is that arises, which is the national anthem. The flag of the United States is also evoked, and not just evoked, is also shown directly. And this reminds us of one of the phrases that we heard from the very start, in America. So America and a type of link to a cultural importance, linked to the nation and nationality, and the idea of what it is, what it means, what this means to be in America, to be an America. And this is also linked to the idea of a dream and the feeling of a dream, and the idea, long may we live to free this dream. And so the idea that freedom and liberty and the United States and the flag and what it represents, and to be an American, what that represents, to be in America, what that represents, and the idea of one's dreams, hopes, and ambitions. The word dream here, I think, is very important in terms of its use and phrasing, because it, like what we saw in other past works, like Tongues Untied or Affirmations, it is suggestive, very directly, I would suggest, of a strong link between these various modes of self-expression in these realms. For example, expressing one's heart, one's feelings, one's sexuality, one's way of communicating with other people, and one's feelings of joy and emotion and happiness, as well as one's feelings of fear and risk and trepidation. How this is also an expression of one's hopes and dreams and desires. And indeed, this is inherently part of the idea or notion of freedom or liberty that is also itself inherent in this concept of what it is to be in America. Thus, the phrase anthem. And also, I should say too, anthem is, I think, very suggestive too of a music or rhythm, or a type of song or sung musical expression that represents something very important and very significant. And so I think this, as an embodiment of what this work signifies, I think is a very important title, because it is a further indication of what we are seeing throughout the running time of 8 minutes, a type of use of music and use of words that become music or that sound like music. And music and sounds and words become one and the same. In other words, as a type of means of expression of poetry that are meant to suggest grand ideas and broad ideas, and also one and the same or parallel to that, the ideas that are lifted from one's own human heart and human experience, i.e., the way in which various forms of expression are captured in this brilliant work, which is called Anthem. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very, very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.